At my husband's birthday, his parents demanded my apartment for their favorite son, his brother. I refused. His mother slapped me. I took the cake knife, not to fight but to slice the deed. Then came the lawyer. 3 weeks later they were. Give Owen the apartment, Natalie. He deserves it more than you do. Brooklyn's words hit me like ice water. I was holding Derek's birthday cake, 42 candles flickering, when his mother dropped this bomb in front of everyone. Excuse me. Is it sure I'd heard wrong? You heard me. Brooklyn crossed her arms, her designer dress catching the light from my chandelier. Owen needs this place. You're just being selfish, keeping it all to yourself. Before we continue, I want to thank you for joining me in sharing these stories about standing up for yourself when family crosses the line. If you believe everyone deserves respect in their own home, please consider subscribing. It's free and helps us reach more women who need to hear this. Now let's see how this unfolds. The room went dead silent. 30 people stopped talking, stopped eating, stopped breathing. Derek's co-workers from the law firm stared. The neighbors I'd invited looked uncomfortable. Even Aunt Martha put down her wine glass. I set the cake down carefully. My hands were shaking. This is my apartment, Brooklyn. I bought it. My name is on everything. She laughed. Actually laughed. Details, sweetheart. Family shares. Owen graduated top of his class and he's living in that awful little studio. Meanwhile, you're hoarding all this space like some kind of dragon. I looked at Derek. My husband of 8 years was standing there like a statue, saying nothing. His brother Owen sat in my favorite chair, smirking. Actually smirking. Derek. I said. Are you going to say something here? He opened his mouth, then closed it. Then opened it again. Maybe we could talk about this later, he whispered. That's when I knew. He was on their side. No, I said louder than I meant to. We're not talking about anything. This is insane. Brooklyn's face changed. The fake sweetness disappeared. Don't you dare raise your voice at me in front of these people. I've been nothing but kind to you for 8 years, even though you never deserved my son. The least you can do is help his family when we need it. Help. I couldn't believe this was happening. You want me to give away my home? Owen worked hard for everything he has. You just married well. Her voice was getting louder too. Some of us earn what we get instead of landing a rich husband. The room was so quiet I could hear my heartbeat. Rich husband. Derek made good money, but I'd bought this apartment before I even met him. With my grandmother's money. Money I'd saved and invested for years. I bought this place myself, I said. Before Derek. With my own money. Oh please. Brooklyn waved her hand like she was swatting a fly. We all know the real story. That's when something snapped inside me. 8 years of this woman treating me like dirt. 8 years of comments about my cooking, my clothes, my job, my family. 8 years of Derek standing there like a bump on a log while his mother destroyed me piece by piece. Get out, I said. Brooklyn blinked. What did you say? I said get out of my apartment. How dare you? Get out. I was screaming now. Everyone jumped. Someone's drink hit the floor. Derek stepped forward with his hands up like I was a wild animal. Natalie, calm down. Calm down. Your mother just demanded my apartment for your brother and you want me to calm down. Brooklyn's face went bright red. She marched over to me, her heels clicking on my hardwood floors. You ungrateful little. Slap. Her hand cracked across my face so hard I saw stars. The sound echoed through my living room like a gunshot. Someone gasped. I think it might have been me. For a second nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The candles on Derek's cake kept flickering like nothing had happened. My cheek burned. I could taste blood where I'd bitten my tongue. Brooklyn stood there with her hands still raised, breathing hard. Derek looked like he'd seen a ghost. Owen was grinning. I reached for the cake knife. Everyone froze. Derek said my name like a prayer. Brooklyn took a step back. But I wasn't going to hurt anyone. I was done with hurting. I cut a perfect slice of chocolate cake and put it on a plate. Then another slice. The knife made soft whisking sounds through the frosting. Anyone want cake? I asked like nothing had happened. Nobody answered. I walked to my bedroom and came back with a manila folder. The deed to my apartment. I kept it in my desk drawer for emergencies. Never thought I'd need it for something like this. I spread the papers on the table next to the birthday cake. Official documents with my name printed in black ink. Natalie Chen. Not Natalie Morrison. My name. My apartment. My money. See this. I pointed at the deed. I bought this place 3 years before I met Derek. With money my grandmother left me. Money I saved working 2 jobs through college. Every single payment came from my bank account. I looked at Owen, who wasn't smirking anymore. You want my apartment? Buy your own. I grabbed my purse and keys. Everyone watched me like I was performing a magic trick. The party's over, I said and walked out of my own home. The hallway was quiet after the chaos of my living room. I could hear muffled voices starting up behind my door, but I didn't care. My face still stung from Brooklyn's slap, but something else was happening inside me. For the first time in 8 years I felt free. I didn't know it yet, but that slap was going to change everything. Brooklyn thought she'd won something by putting me in my place. She had no idea what she'd just started. I sat in my car outside the apartment building for 20 minutes, watching people walk by on the sidewalk. Normal people going about their normal lives. None of them had just been slapped by their mother-in-law at their husband's birthday party. My phone buzzed. Derek, where are you? Everyone's asking. I turned it off. The thing is, I should have seen this coming years ago. Brooklyn had been training for tonight since the day Derek brought me home to meet his family. I was 26 then, fresh out of graduate school, proud of my new job at the marketing firm. I thought they'd be happy their son found someone who loved him. I was so wrong. She's pretty. Brooklyn had said that first dinner, looking me up and down like I was livestock. Asian girls are always so neat. Neat. Like I was a filing cabinet. Derek had squeezed my hand under the table and whispered she likes you, when Brooklyn went to get dessert. Even then he was hearing what he wanted to hear. That first year was brutal. Brooklyn would call Derek every single day, sometimes twice. If I answered the phone she'd ask to speak to her son, like I was the housekeeper. When we'd visit for Sunday dinners she'd set the table for 4 people. Like I didn't exist. Oh, I forgot, she'd say, scrambling to get another plate. How silly of me. Forgot. Right. Owen was 22 then, fresh out of college and golden in ways I could never be. Brooklyn would spend entire dinners talking about his grades, his job interviews, his girlfriend of the month. When I mentioned getting promoted to senior account manager, she'd nod politely and ask Owen about his intramural basketball team. Mom's just excited about Owen, Derek would say later. She's proud of you too. But she wasn't. And we both knew it. The worst part was Paisley. Derek's sister was 2 years younger than me, but she had this way of making me feel like a child playing dress-up. She'd visit from Portland twice a year and suddenly I was invisible again. Remember when Owen won that debate tournament in high school? Paisley would say over coffee, her eyes sparkling. Mom was so proud she cried right there in the auditorium. What about when Derek made partner? I tried to join in. That was amazing too. Oh yes, Paisley would agree, but her smile would fade just a little. Derek's always been so steady. Steady. Code for boring compared to Owen. During our 3rd Christmas together, I spent 2 days making Brooklyn's grandmother's recipe for apple pie. I'd asked Derek for it weeks ahead of time, practiced twice to get it perfect. The crust was golden, the filling bubbled just right. This is lovely, dear, Brooklyn said, taking a tiny bite. Though it's a bit sweet, isn't it? Grandma Ruth always said the secret was using tart apples. Owen had brought store-bought cookies. Brooklyn raved about them for 10 minutes. You have such good taste, sweetheart, she told him. These are from that boutique bakery downtown, aren't they? So thoughtful. I wanted to scream. Instead I smiled and asked if anyone wanted more pie. Grayson was the hardest to read. Derek's father spoke maybe 20 words to me that entire first year. He'd nod when I walked into a room, grunt acknowledgement when I said hello, and retreat behind his newspaper when conversation got too personal. But he heard everything. Every comment Brooklyn made about my cooking, my clothes, my family, my career. Every time she forgot to include me in family photos or holiday plans. He'd sit in his chair, silent as a stone, while his wife slowly erased me from their family portrait. Dad's just quiet, Derek would explain. He likes you fine. Fine. Not loved, not welcomed, not accepted. Fine. The breaking point came during our 4th year of marriage. Derek's grandmother on his father's side passed away, and Brooklyn was planning the funeral reception. I offered to help with the food, the flowers, anything she needed. That's sweet, Natalie, but this is really a family matter, she'd said over the phone. We have it handled. The day of the funeral, I sat in the church pew with Derek, holding his hand while he cried. His grandmother had been kind to me, one of the few Morrison family members who remembered my name and asked about my work. At the reception afterward, I helped serve coffee and collect plates without being asked. Brooklyn's sisters complimented the flower arrangements. Brooklyn did such a beautiful job, one of them said. Everything's perfect. Actually, Natalie arranged most of the flowers, Derek said, putting his arm around me. She's got a real eye for this stuff. Brooklyn's smile froze. Oh, I'm sure she helped a little. Helped a little. I'd spent 6 hours at the florist, designing every arrangement, paying for half of them with my own money. Mom, Derek started, but Brooklyn had already moved on to accept more condolences. That night, I cried for the first time since our wedding. Not because Brooklyn had taken credit for my work, but because Derek had let her. She's grieving, he said when I tried to explain how hurt I was. Mom doesn't mean anything by it. She meant everything by it. Every slight, every dismissal, every moment of making me feel like I didn't belong. It was all intentional. Owen graduated law school that spring. Brooklyn threw him a party at the country club, invited 60 people, hired a photographer. When Derek made senior partner 6 months later, she suggested we all go out to dinner. Just the 5 of us. To a chain restaurant. We don't need to make a big fuss, she said. Derek knows we're proud. But Owen's law school graduation photos still hang in their living room. Derek's partnership certificate is stuck to their refrigerator with a magnet. Years passed like this. Me trying harder, them caring less. I learned to cook Brooklyn's favorite recipes, only to be told they weren't quite right. I bought thoughtful Christmas gifts and watched Owen get twice as many presents. I planned Derek's birthday parties and listened to Brooklyn critique everything from the decorations to the guest list. Next year maybe we should do something smaller, she'd always say afterward. More intimate. Just family. Just family. Never including me. By year 7 I'd stopped trying so hard. I'd show up, smile, participate when spoken to, and leave as soon as politely possible. Derek noticed but didn't understand. You seem distant with my family lately, he said one night after another painful Sunday dinner. Distant. Like it was my fault. I'm tired, Derek, I told him. And I was. Tired of fighting for scraps of acceptance from people who'd decided 8 years ago that I wasn't good enough for their precious son. Tonight finally the mask had come off. Brooklyn's slap wasn't just about the apartment. It was 8 years of resentment, 8 years of me not knowing my place, 8 years of her waiting for the perfect moment to put me back where I belonged. Nowhere. But she'd made one mistake. She'd done it in front of witnesses in my own home over something that was legally, indisputably mine. For the first time in 8 years I held all the cards. I found out Owen had moved in from Mrs. Chin, the elderly woman who ran the corner market below my building. I'd been staying at my friend Sarah's place for 3 days when I stopped by to grab coffee and newspapers for job hunting. Your husband's brother, he movin' already, Mrs. Chin said in her broken English, shaking her head. Very fast. Boxes everywhere yesterday. My stomach dropped. 3 days. Owen had waited exactly 3 days before claiming my home. Did you see Derek helping? I asked. No, Derek. Just the brother and 2 men with truck. Your mother-in-law, she's standing outside, pointing where to put things. Of course she was. Brooklyn probably supervised the whole operation like a military commander finally conquering enemy territory. I walked around the block twice before getting the courage to look up at my apartment. 4th floor, corner unit with the small balcony where I'd grown herbs every summer. The blinds were closed but I could see light seeping around the edges. Owen was up there, probably sitting in my reading chair, eating off my plates, sleeping in my bed. My phone rang. Paisley. Natalie, thank God. Where are you staying? Why do you care? The words came out harsher than I meant them to. Look, I know Mom was out of line, but running away isn't going to fix anything. Derek's been calling you for days. Running away? I laughed, but it sounded ugly even to me. Your mother slapped me in my own home and demanded I give it to Owen. What exactly should I have done? Paisley was quiet for a moment. Come back. We can work this out. Owen's already moved in. Seems like it's worked out just fine. That's temporary. Mom was just upset. Tell me something, Paisley. I stopped walking and leaned against a lamppost. If someone slapped you and tried to steal your house, would you call it temporary? She hung up. That night, Sarah poured us both wine and listened while I explained the whole mess. Her apartment was tiny but warm, nothing like the spacious rooms I'd lost. "So what's your plan?" she asked. "I don't have one." It was the truth. For the first time in my adult life, I had no idea what came next. "You could fight this. Get a lawyer, get your place back." "With what money?" "Derek handles all our finances. The apartment might be mine, but everything else." I gestured helplessly. "Then get a job. Start over." Start over. At 34, with my whole life packed into 2 suitcases. The next morning, Mrs. Patterson from 4B called. She'd gotten my number from the building's emergency contact list. "Honey, I'm sorry to bother you, but something's not right up there." "What do you mean?" "The lights. They've been flickering on and off all night for 3 days straight. And there's this sound, like someone crying. It's keeping the whole floor awake." I pressed the phone tighter to my ear. "Did you talk to Owen about it?" "I tried knocking yesterday. He answered the door looking, well, he looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, hair all messy. Said he hadn't noticed any problems." Mrs. Patterson had lived in that building for 15 years. She noticed everything from packages left too long in the lobby to suspicious visitors. She said something was wrong, something was wrong. "Maybe it's just electrical issues," I said, though my chest felt tight. "Maybe. But honey, there's something else. Mr. Rodriguez from 4A saw him talking to himself in the hallway at 2 in the morning. Full conversations like someone was answering back. That evening I couldn't help myself. I drove by the building just as the sun was setting. The street lights were coming on and most windows glowed with warm yellow light. Families making dinner, watching TV, living their normal lives. My apartment was dark except for one room. The living room, where a single lamp cast shadows against the closed blinds. As I watched, the light flickered. Off on like Morse code. Then I saw movement in the window. A silhouette, but something was wrong with the shape. Too small to be Owen, too slight. The figure moved closer to the glass, and for just a moment I could have sworn it was looking right at me. My hands started shaking. I drove away fast. Derek called the next day. His voice sounded strained, tired. "We need to talk." "About what?" "Your brother stealing my apartment or your mother assaulting me. Owen's having some problems. Adjusting to the new place." "What kind of problems?" Derek was quiet for so long I thought he'd hung up. Finally, he called in sick to work Monday. Then Tuesday. Then he just stopped calling altogether. His boss contacted Mom yesterday. So he's having trouble getting to work. That's not my problem. Natalie, he hasn't left the apartment in over a week. Mom brought him groceries yesterday and she said he looked like he hadn't slept in days. He kept asking her if she heard voices in the walls. The wine from Sarah's turned to acid in my stomach. Voices. He's probably just stressed. New place, new routine. But Mom thinks. She thinks maybe you did something to the apartment before you left. I almost laughed. Like what? Booby traps. I don't know. She's convinced you sabotaged something to get back at us. Tell your mother I'm not that creative. But even as I said it, something cold crawled up my spine. Mrs. Patterson's call, the flickering lights, the figure in the window. "Look, just come home. We can figure this out. That's not my home anymore. You made that very clear." After I hung up, I sat in Sarah's kitchen staring at my reflection in the dark window. My grandmother used to tell me stories about houses that remembered things. Happy memories made houses warm and welcoming. Bad memories made them restless. I'd been happy in that apartment for 8 years. It was my sanctuary, my safe place, the one spot in the world where I belonged completely. Until Brooklyn's SLAP changed everything. Maybe houses really did remember. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. When I opened it, my blood went cold. It was a photo of my apartment's living room, taken from inside. Everything looked normal except for the mirror above my couch. In the reflection, clear as day, was a woman with long black hair standing behind whoever took the picture. A woman who looked exactly like me. But I was sitting in Sarah's kitchen 15 miles away. I stared at that photo for hours, zooming in until the pixels blurred together. The woman in the mirror had my exact haircut, my exact build, even the way I tilted my head when I was thinking. But her eyes looked different. Sadder. Angrier. I called the number back. It rang once before Owen's voice answered, but something was wrong with it. Softer. Higher pitched. "Hello, Natalie speaking." My blood turned to ice. "Owen." "Who's Owen?" The voice was definitely coming from Owen's phone, but it sounded exactly like me. "This is Natalie. I'm home now." The line went dead. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that reflection, heard my own voice coming from someone else's mouth. Sarah found me at her kitchen table the next morning, still in yesterday's clothes, surrounded by empty coffee cups. "You look awful," she said gently. "Owen's wearing my clothes." Sarah sat down across from me. "What?" "Mrs. Patterson called an hour ago. She saw him in the hallway wearing my blue scarf. The one with the silver threads that I forgot when I left. Then yesterday Mrs. Rodriguez saw him by the mailboxes wearing my burgundy dress. The one I wore to his law school graduation." "That's..." Sarah struggled for words. "That's really weird, Nat. It gets worse. Mrs. Patterson says when she asked if he was okay, he answered in my voice. Not imitating me. Actually sounding like me." Sarah poured herself coffee with shaky hands. "Maybe he's having some kind of breakdown? That's what Brooklyn thinks. Derek called again last night. She wants to have Owen committed for psychiatric evaluation. But I knew it wasn't mental illness. Something else was happening in that apartment. Something I should have recognized years ago. The building had been constructed in 1987, right on the spot where my grandmother's house used to stand. I only learned this by accident during the closing process, when the real estate agent mentioned the lot's history. A small Victorian home had been torn down to make room for the modern complex. I'd never told Derek, but finding that apartment felt like fate. The moment I walked through the door, something settled inside me. A feeling of coming home that I'd never experienced anywhere else. My grandmother died when I was 12, but I remembered her stories about the old neighborhood. How the developers came through in the 80s, buying up houses for half their worth, pushing out families who'd lived there for generations. "They offered me pennies," she used to say, her voice bitter with old anger. "Told me I was lucky to get anything for that old dump. But that house had my husband's workshop in the basement, my children's height marks on the kitchen doorframe, 50 years of Christmas mornings and birthday parties." She'd fought them for 2 years before finally accepting their offer. The stress of the legal battles, the financial pressure, the constant harassment from lawyers and city planners had worn her down. She moved into a tiny apartment across town and died of a heart attack 6 months later. I was too young then to understand what that loss had done to her. But now, sitting in Sarah's kitchen, I wondered if some part of her had never left that lot. My phone buzzed. Another unknown number, another text. This time it was a photo of my bathroom mirror, fogged with steam like someone had just taken a hot shower. Written in the condensation in handwriting I recognized as my own were 2 words. "Still here." I dropped the phone like it was on fire. "What?" Sarah grabbed it before I could stop her. Her face went pale. "Natalie, who's sending these?" "I don't know." But that was a lie. Deep down, in a place I didn't want to acknowledge, I knew exactly who was sending them. Derek called that afternoon while I was pretending to job hunt online. "Something's really wrong with Owen," he said without preamble. "Mom went to check on him this morning and found him in your old bedroom, sitting at your vanity, brushing his hair with your brush." "Maybe he's just missing female company," I said, though my mouth felt dry. "Natalie, he was wearing your perfume. And when Mom asked what he was doing, he said, 'Getting ready for work, just like always.' In your exact voice." She recorded it on her phone. "I've heard it 10 times and I swear it sounds exactly like you." I closed my laptop. "Where's Owen now?" "Locked in the bathroom. He's been in there for 3 hours. Mom can hear water running, but when she knocks, you answer. I mean, your voice answers. Saying things like, 'I'll be out in a minute, just doing my skincare routine.'" The skincare routine I'd done every night for 8 years. Green tea toner, vitamin C serum, moisturizer with SPF. Owen couldn't possibly know about that. "Derek, this isn't normal." "I know it's not normal." His voice cracked. "That's why I'm calling you. Mom thinks you did something to him. Put some kind of curse on the apartment or something crazy like that." A curse. If only Brooklyn knew how close to the truth she was. "I want to see him," I said suddenly. "What? Oh, you can't come back here. Not after everything." "He's wearing my clothes, using my voice, living in my home." I think I have a right to see what's happening. Derek was quiet for a long moment. Mom won't allow it. Then don't tell her. That evening, Derek met me in the parking garage beneath the building. He looked like he'd aged 5 years in 2 weeks. His usually perfect hair was messy, his clothes wrinkled. "This is insane," he said as we rode the elevator up. "If Mom finds out I brought you here." "How long has Owen been in the bathroom?" 6 hours now. The water's still running. We can hear him, or you, singing. Songs you used to sing in the shower. My throat tightened. What songs? That one from the musical. The one about defying gravity. Wicked. I'd sung that song every morning for years, usually while washing my hair. Owen had never shown any interest in musicals. Derek's hands shook as he unlocked the apartment door. "He doesn't know you're coming. I told him I was going out to get dinner." The apartment looked exactly the same but felt completely different. Colder. The air seemed thicker, charged with an energy that made my skin crawl. My furniture was still there, but Owen's belongings were scattered around like he'd been living there for months instead of weeks. Then I saw them. My scarves draped over the couch. My dresses hanging from the bedroom doorframe. My perfume bottles lined up on the coffee table like a shrine. "Owen." Derek called softly. "I'm back." The water shut off immediately. Footsteps crossed the bathroom floor and then my own voice answered. "Perfect timing, honey. I just finished my face mask." Derek's eyes met mine. The terror in them was unmistakable. The bathroom door opened and Owen stepped out wearing my silk robe, his face smooth and glowing like he'd actually used my skincare products. When he saw me, he didn't look surprised. He smiled with my smile and said in my voice, "Welcome home, Natalie. I've been waiting for you." Derek grabbed my arm as Owen glided toward us in my silk robe, his movements unnaturally graceful. Everything about his posture had changed. The way he held his shoulders, the tilt of his head, even how he walked. It was like watching myself in a funhouse mirror. "Owen, what are you doing?" Derek's voice cracked. "Owen." He laughed, and it was my laugh, down to the little snort I made when something was really funny. "There's no Owen here anymore. Just me." I stepped backward, my heart hammering. "This isn't possible. Isn't it?" He moved to the kitchen and started making tea, moving around the space like he'd lived there for years. My favorite mug, my special honey, even the way I stirred counterclockwise 3 times. "I've been waiting so long to come home." Derek looked between us, his face white as paper. "Natalie, what's happening here?" I couldn't answer because I was watching Owen, or whoever this was, perform my exact evening routine. He pulled my reading glasses from the drawer where I'd always kept them, settled into my chair with my book and crossed his legs the precise way I always did. "Derek, honey, could you turn on some music?" he said without looking up. "You know how I like Billie Holiday while I read." Derek didn't move. He was staring at Owen like he'd seen a ghost. Maybe he had. My phone rang. "Brooklyn." "Don't answer it," Owen said pleasantly, still reading my book. "She's been calling all day, poor thing. So worried about her precious son." But Derek was already picking up. "Mom." Brooklyn's voice was so loud I could hear every word. "Derek, thank God. I've been trying to reach you for hours. Something terrible has happened with Owen. We're at the apartment now, Mom. He seems different." "Different?" "Derek, he spent the morning baking in the kitchen. I came by to check on him and found him pulling a cake out of the oven, humming that song Natalie always hummed. When I asked what he was doing, he said, making Grandma's spice cake for Sunday dinner, just like always." I felt the blood drain from my face. My grandmother's spice cake recipe. I'd never written it down, never shared it with anyone. It was something she taught me by feel, by watching, by standing next to her in her tiny kitchen when I was 8 years old. "The recipe died with her," I whispered. Owen looked up from my book and smiled. "Nothing really dies, sweetheart. It just finds new places to live." Brooklyn was still talking on the phone. "Derek, he knew ingredients I've never seen him use. Cardamom, Chinese 5-spice, some kind of special molasses. Where would he even get those things? From the international market on 5th Street, where I'd shopped every month for 8 years. The one place in town that carried the exact brands my grandmother had used. And the cake," Brooklyn continued, her voice getting higher. "It tasted exactly like the one Natalie used to make. Exactly. Down to the cream cheese frosting with the hint of orange zest. Owen was watching me now, his head tilted at that angle I saw in mirrors every morning. She loved that cake. Made it every year for my birthday until she got too sick to bake. Your birthday. Derek's voice was barely audible. My birthday is next month, Owen said, still in my voice. October 15th. I always wanted someone to remember. But that was my birthday. Owen's birthday was in March. Brooklyn's voice crackled through the phone. Derek, I'm coming over. This has gone too far. We need to call someone, a doctor, the police, I don't know. No, Owen said firmly, and for the first time his voice had an edge to it. Tell her not to come. Tell her the apartment doesn't want her here anymore. Derek's hand trembled as he spoke into the phone. Mom, maybe you should stay home tonight. Stay home? Derek Morrison, your brother is having a complete mental breakdown and you want me to stay home. I'll call you later, Derek said and hung up. Owen smiled approvingly. Good boy. Now would you mind giving us some privacy? I'd like to talk to myself for a while. I'm not leaving Natalie alone with you. Look at me, Derek. Owen stood up slowly and I watched my husband's face change as he really looked at his brother. The soft curves Owen had somehow developed around his hips and chest. The way my clothes fit him perfectly now, like they'd been tailored for his body. The delicate way he moved his hands when he talked. I am Natalie, Owen said gently. I'm just borrowing a different face for a while. Derek stumbled backward. This is insane. People don't just become other people. Don't they? Owen walked to the mirror hanging over my couch, the same mirror where I'd seen my reflection in that first photo. Come look, Derek. Tell me what you see. Derek moved like he was sleepwalking. I followed, my legs feeling like jelly. In the mirror, Owen's reflection wasn't Owen anymore. It was me, exactly as I'd looked the night of Derek's birthday party. Same dress, same hairstyle, same makeup. But when Owen turned away from the mirror, he still looked like himself. The mirror remembers, he said softly. Just like the apartment remembers. Just like the cake recipe remembers. Some things leave impressions so deep they never really go away. Derek's phone rang again. Brooklyn, relentless as always. Answer it, Owen said. She deserves to hear this. Derek's hands shook as he put the call on speaker. Derek, I'm in the lobby. The doorman won't let me up without permission from the apartment owner. He says there's some kind of flag on the unit. Owen smiled, that smile I'd perfected over years of dealing with Brooklyn's passive aggression. Sweet, patient, hiding steel underneath. Tell her I said she's not welcome here anymore, he said in my voice. Tell her this apartment belongs to Natalie Chin, and Natalie Chin decides who gets to visit. I can't tell her that. Why not? It's true. Owen moved to the window and looked down at the street. Oh, I can see her down there. In her blue coat, pacing back and forth like a caged animal. Poor Brooklyn. Always so used to getting her way. Brooklyn's voice rose through the phone. Derek, what's taking so long? Just tell the doorman to let me up. Owen picked up the phone. When he spoke, his voice was mine, but with an authority I'd never managed with Brooklyn. Hello, Brooklyn. This is Natalie. You're not welcome in my home anymore. Please leave. The silence on the other end stretched for 10 seconds. Then 20. Finally, Brooklyn whispered, Natalie? Yes. How are you doing this? Owen looked at me, and for just a moment I saw something else behind his eyes. Something ancient and patient and very, very tired of being pushed around. I'm not doing anything, Brooklyn. I'm just finally home. Brooklyn hung up without another word. The silence in my apartment felt heavy, like the air before a thunderstorm. Derek stood frozen by the window, staring down at the street where his mother was probably still pacing. She's leaving, Owen said, still in my voice. Finally learning when she's not wanted. I watched Derek's face crumble. 8 years of marriage and I'd never seen him look so lost. I need to go, I said quietly. Owen turned to me with those familiar eyes. You don't have to leave. This is your home too. No, I said and meant it. It's not anymore. It's yours now. Derek grabbed my hand. Natalie, please. We can fix this. We can get Owen help, get him back to normal. Normal. I pulled my hand away gently. Derek, when was I ever normal to your family? When did any of you ever want the real me? Owen moved to my old bookshelf and pulled out a photo album I'd forgotten about. Pictures of Derek and me from our early dating days, our wedding holidays with friends. He flipped through it slowly like he was studying each image. Look how happy she was, he said softly, showing Derek a picture from our honeymoon. Before she learned to make herself smaller for people who would never appreciate her anyway. I left then while Derek was staring at that photo. I couldn't watch him discover truths that were 8 years too late. 3 weeks passed before I went back. I'd found a job at a small marketing firm downtown. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I'd rented a tiny studio apartment that smelled like fresh paint and possibility. Sarah helped me pick out new furniture. A couch that was actually comfortable instead of just stylish, bright curtains that let in morning light, plants that I could keep alive without worrying about Brooklyn's opinions on my decorating choices. The building looked different when I pulled up that October evening. Sadder somehow, like it was holding its breath. Most of the windows glowed with warm family light, but my old apartment remained dark. Mrs. Chen wasn't at her market anymore. A younger man I didn't recognize stood behind the counter, looking bored. The building directory had been updated too. My apartment was listed as vacant. I rode the elevator to the 4th floor, my heart beating steadily for the first time in weeks. No panic, no dread, just a quiet sense of completion. The hallway was empty and dim. Someone had left newspapers piled outside 4B, Mrs. Patterson's apartment. I knocked softly on her door. "Oh, honey," she said when she saw me, her face lighting up with relief. "Are you okay? We've all been so worried." "I'm fine. What happened to Owen?" Her expression grew troubled. "They took him away last week. Brooklyn and some men in white coats. He didn't fight them, just smiled and waved goodbye like he was going on vacation. And Derek moved out the day after. Haven't seen him since." She hesitated. "Honey, that boy. Those last few days he looked just like you. I mean exactly like you. It was the strangest thing I've ever seen." I nodded. "Mrs. Patterson, if anyone asks, I was never here tonight, okay?" "Of course, dear. But be careful. That apartment, something's not right about it anymore." I stood outside my old door for a long time listening. No sounds from inside, no flickering lights under the doorframe. Just silence and the faint smell of lilies. I'd brought flowers. White lilies from the same shop where my grandmother used to buy them every Sunday. They were her favorite because they meant rebirth, she told me once. New beginnings from old endings. I left them outside the door with a small note tucked between the stems. "You're safe now. He can't take what's already yours." Walking away, I felt something lift from my shoulders. A weight I'd been carrying for so long I'd forgotten it was there. That night, in my new apartment with its bright curtains and comfortable couch, I slept 10 hours without waking once. No dreams about Brooklyn's slap or Owen's smile or Derek's silence. Just peaceful, dreamless sleep. 6 months later, Sarah called with news. "Your old building's been in the paper," she said. "Apparently they can't keep tenants in your apartment. 5 different people have moved in and out in the past half year." "What happened to them?" "Same thing every time. They last about 3 weeks, then leave in the middle of the night. No explanation, won't talk to reporters. The building management is calling it a maintenance issue, but the neighbors are saying it's haunted." I smiled, stirring honey into my morning tea. "Maybe it is. Aren't you curious? Don't you want to know what's happening up there?" "Not really." And I meant it. Whatever was happening in that apartment wasn't my business anymore. I'd made my peace with it. Brooklyn tried calling once about a year later. I let it go to voicemail. "Natalie, this is Brooklyn. I know we had our differences, but I need to ask you something. He's not getting better. The doctors don't understand what's wrong with him. He keeps asking for you. Says you're the only one who can help him remember who he is." I deleted the message without listening to the rest. Owen had gotten what he'd always wanted. My life, my home, my place in that family. The fact that it came with consequences he hadn't expected wasn't my problem to solve. Derek filed for divorce 6 months after that. I signed the papers without contest and mailed them back the same day. Sometimes I drive by the old building, usually on Sundays when I'm running errands nearby. The apartment stays empty now. There's a "for rent" sign that never comes down, faded and curling at the edges. Once, about 2 years after everything happened, I thought I saw movement in the window. A figure standing at the glass, brushing long dark hair. When I looked again, the window was empty, but I could have sworn I saw someone smile. The last time I spoke to Mrs. Patterson, she mentioned that Owen had been transferred to a long-term care facility upstate. "Poor boy," she said, shaking her head. Brooklyn visits him every week, but he doesn't recognize her anymore. Just sits by the window humming songs and talking to himself in that voice that sounds just like yours. I didn't tell her that wasn't Owen anymore. Some truths are too complicated for Sunday afternoon conversations. Instead, I wished her well and drove home to my bright little apartment, where the coffee was always perfect and no one expected me to be anyone but myself. That was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything. If this story of supernatural justice had you on the edge of your seat, hit that like button right now. My favorite part was when Owen answered the phone in Natalie's exact voice, completely freaking out Brooklyn. What was your favorite moment? Drop it in the comments below. Don't miss more thrilling stories like this. Subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload.